Well, hello there, Facebook land. Nice to see you today. I'm by myself, if you haven't noticed. There's no doc today. It's just Dillon because he's off running somebody's political campaign, and that somebody's his brother. So I suppose that's a little bit probably higher or lower on his totem pole than me in the show, which is okay. He's supposed to be joining us. He was saying in probably half an hour or so. So for now, it's me, and that's good enough, right? So let's get the show started. Welcome to Dillon and the doc, Sans doc for right now. Like I said, he'll be back, or rather here, in about 30 minutes, where we talk relationships and recovery. Since we don't have the doc and it's just Dillon, it'll be mostly sobriety and recovery based today. So for those of you that aren't familiar with who I am, my name is Dillon Reed. I'm a professional recovery coach. I talk all things sobriety, personal development, goal setting, so that you can be a more ideal version of you. You know, what I do is I help specifically dads lean into the lessons they can gain from the bad habits they're experiencing so that they can become better fathers, better partners, better employees, better business owners, whatever it is. When we get sober, we start showing up at, hopefully a 10 out of 10 instead of like we're normally showing up at 6 out of 10. So today's show, the first half of it is going to be all about getting sober, because I don't think it's fair to speak about relationships as if I'm an expert, because I'm not. And that's why Ryan is here with us most of the time. So first of all, where are you guys coming in from? Hopefully also, if you would, let me know if my audio is working. Normally, Ryan and I know if each other's audio is working because we're talking to each other. I don't have anybody to bounce stuff off of today. So if you could chime in, let me know that you can hear me, and let me know where you're from. That would be super cool. I would appreciate that a whole lot. It would be nice to know that I'm not talking to an audience that can't hear me. So yeah, anyways, I'm going to assume that you can hear me, and we'll just roll with it. So today, I want to go over some administrative detail stuff here. Podcast is an episode or two behind currently. I don't know that you do or do not care, but I'm going to assume that you do, because I do. I feel bad about it. That's why I'm bringing it up. Working to get caught up. Barb, hey, thank you for popping in, letting me know that the audio is working. I will have the podcast all caught up, including this episode right here on all major networks by midweek next week. That's a promise I'm making to you. I love coaching people. I mean, it's my business, is what I do, but I have had some time to reflect in the last couple of weeks, with family being sick and me being at home. I like this a whole lot more. This is one of my favorite parts of the week. And in order for me to continue to do this, I've actually decided to take on one less client, because this is just a blast. So I thought I would share that with you, let you know, hey, we're going to get caught up. We're going to stay caught up. The way I'm going to stay caught up is by devoting more time to the podcast itself and to the live show itself, instead of, taking on an additional client. Because I feel like I can help more people by doing this than if I'm working with just one individual, kind of makes sense. So I don't know. If you got any questions that you want me to take that are recovery or sobriety related, let me know. I'll definitely field them while we wait for Ryan to show up. Because he and I mean, we do take questions live, but sometimes we have to kind of push them away for a minute, because we have to be courteous of each other's time. If we have a show that's totally railroaded by a bunch of relationship questions, sometimes we'll kind of put some of those off. So you get me by yourselves for right now. So if you got anything you want to ask, let me know. In the meantime, I want to go over a few things with you guys, because as you might notice, the topic today is high functioning alcoholics. And I got some takes on this that not everybody's going to dig, but that's where I'm coming from. And I think it's important to be authentic and to be genuine, and, to truly share like my thoughts on the matter, from a place of experience and logic and a little bit of science too, right? So, like I said, today we're going to talk about high functioning alcoholics. And if you would, at any point in time, in the comments, drop down, what that means to you, what your experience is like dealing with high functioning alcoholics. If it's something that you think is real, if it's something that you think people are just making up. I'm always interested. I popped a comment or a post in earlier this week to kind of see where everybody was at on it. It was actually pretty interesting because not everybody agreed, which doesn't surprise me, especially after some of the research that I did into the topic itself. So without further ado, let's talk high functioning alcoholics. So did you know that if you swallow gum, it won't leave your intestinal tract for 7 years? Or did you know that if you swallow watermelon seeds, they'll grow in your stomach? How about if you drink coffee, it'll stunt your growth? Or that if you sit too close to the TV, it'll ruin your eyesight? Now, wait a minute. Dillon, what does any of that have to do with being a high functioning alcoholic? Well, that has everything to do with that, because being a high functioning alcoholic is something that's just as true as any of the things that I just said to you. So, as we're pretty aware, I would hope, those are all old wives' tales, and they're a bunch of baloney. There's not even a granule of truth in any of the things that I just told you. So now let's talk about being a high functional alcoholic, right? So I don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to read it right off the paper for you. Per the American Addiction Centers, when someone is colloquial termed a high functioning alcoholic, they may be able to carry out daily tasks such as job tasks, hygiene, childcare, paying bills, and participating in social activities without exhibiting the full range of clinical impairments commonly associated with alcohol use disorders. So what I'm picking up there is it's a colloquialism, okay? It is a dangerous one at that, because drinking is generally progressive. So when somebody is a high functioning alcoholic, then we allow them to hide behind their accomplishments, their resume. Like, oh, he's still going to work. It's okay that he drinks too much, right? The concern is that we're then excusing ourselves or the drinking of others, which can become a problem in our lives in the future. So if you haven't picked up on it already, I am not a fan of the term high functioning alcoholic in any way, shape, or form. It's not a thing. Just because we speak something into existence doesn't mean that we all have to accept that it's reality, right? I mean, we're just playing this game of telephone where we've all socially accepted the idea that there's such a thing as a high functioning alcoholic. Well, let's just call a spade, because are we really high functioning? And I'm going to share my experience with you in a minute, because I was a high functioning alcoholic at one point too. I allowed it to be my excuse to continue to drink. And I don't want other people to do the same thing that I did, because it did get progressively worse to the point that I was not functioning in the end. So I want you to think about this. Are you comfortable with your pilot being a high functioning alcoholic, right? The guy that is supposed to take you tens of thousands of feet in the air, bring you back down, flying hundreds of miles per hour. Are you okay with that guy maybe being a little hungover from the night before? No, he drinks every day, but generally he lands the plane. So we'll just excuse Bob's behavior. No big deal. By the way, that is a huge problem. So huge that there are entire organizations dedicated to working with the FAA to help combat the problem of pilots that drink, because it's a high stress job. We see it all the time. So much so that it's like there's federal agencies that exist to regulate pilots and their behavior drinking, right? How about surgeons? How about police officers? How about your kid's daycare nanny? How about your kids' teachers? Are we okay with those people being high functioning alcoholics? And that's what we really need to ask ourselves, because when we perpetuate the myth of the high functioning alcoholic, we permit their behavior into the future, right? So this is what my drinking looked like. I'm not going to go through blow for blow my memoir of my drinking career. I just want to share kind of some highlights with you. I started a company when I was 21 years old, started a recording studio. We did all right. Didn't make a whole lot of money. We made some money. I was drunk like the whole time. Not the whole time, but I drank often. I was in the party stage. That was the thing that we did. Didn't run it into the ground. Nobody really got hurt on my behalf. I'm not saying nobody got hurt in our circle, but here's the thing is like when we're in a relationship with alcohol, everybody around us is in that relationship as well. Our wife, our children, our parents, our siblings, coworkers, it doesn't matter. It could be a stranger. And that, when we have a DUI and you hit somebody you don't know at all, that's another person that you brought into your relationship with alcohol, right? That's why I am pretty passionate about this topic. So we go through mine. Fortunately, in my younger days of drinking, I never got a DUI. I should have though. Okay. Like that's the reality. There's plenty of times that I had a few too many. I worked as a bartender at one point, might have a few too many shift drinks after work. And I'm going, maybe I shouldn't drive. And then I did anyways. Fortunately, I never got hurt. Nobody else got hurt. But that's the problem of being a high functioning alcoholic is that we're not experiencing the consequences. So it reinforces the negative behavior. And then socially, we're reinforcing that negative behavior even further because we've kind of written them a check that says, hey, it's okay. You can cash this. It's okay that you drink too much because you're at least showing up to work. You're at least taking care of your kids. You're doing this, that, or the other. So fast forward in life, I have that business. I end up, I have girlfriends here and there. I end up getting married. I sat on I'm a Freemason, I'm a Shriner. I've been in other social clubs. I've sat as a president of both of the organizations that I just named. I've gotten regional awards. I had 4.0 GPA. And this isn't all about me tooting my horn about the things I've done, but I just want to illustrate that we can have accolades in life and still have a problem. Like my thing, the real issue was that nobody really knew the extent of what my life looked like behind closed doors. And everyone assumes that it's okay because outwardly, this guy can't have a problem. He goes to work every day. This guy can't have a problem. He's got a 4.0 GPA. I just read about him in the newspaper. This guy, he can't have a problem because I know he takes care of his kids. He's never late to work. The list goes on. And we allow these behaviors to be permissive of truly misbehavior. Like that's the reality. I'm showing up every day at like a level 5 or 6 when I can show up as a 10, right? So that's what high functioning really looks like, right? You show up and that's good enough. It's good enough by everybody else's standards, but we have to ask ourselves, is it good enough to our own standard? If we're being really honest. And if I'm being really honest, that whole entire time, it wasn't. I knew I was capable of more, but who am I to tell my neighbor that they're wrong? Like I'll have a beer with that guy. Everything's okay. No big deal. He drinks, I drink. It's okay. So socially, colloquially, we're using the term high functioning alcoholic to continue to excuse our poor behavior, ourselves and the people around us. So now that I've kind of done railroading that part, I want to talk about kind of a metaphor, a story that I shared with somebody that's in my group mentorship, a member of the program. Shared it with her about a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about this very topic. So imagine that we're just kind of a piece of furniture in a living room and people walk in and out of our life, and let's say we're a rug. You're just a rug in a living room and people walk in and out of this living room. It's how relationships go. We only have so many solid relationships in our life. People truly do walk in and out. So on a daily basis, you might have your wife that steps in and out throughout the day, your kids that step in and out throughout the day. If you're not married or whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, just think your situation and think about people coming in and out. Your coworker doesn't hang out in your life's living room all day long, so they're coming in and they're coming out. And we don't really notice things are out of place unless things are out of place. So as those people walk in and out of the living room, you don't think anything about it. But think about like your own actual living room. If you were gone and a spouse or a kid or somebody put something in the living room that didn't belong there, you notice it all of a sudden and you'll say something about it. It's no different. So think about your drinking. We're still the rug. And as long as the rug is fine and people can walk over it and no one trips, nobody says anything, it can even be pretty well out of place. Like it could be in a completely different spot in the room and people won't generally say anything about it until it truly becomes a problem, right? Until let's say you're the rug, like I've been saying, and you're folded up to the point that somebody trips over the rug, then they're going to say something about it. Or someone that they care about trips over the rug, then they're going to say something about it. This is exactly what being a high functioning alcoholic is like. We allow the rug to be in the wrong spot in the living room. Hell, it can even be in the wrong room for all we care. But we don't say anything about it until we trip over it or someone we care about trips over it. And I think that's just problematic because, like in my own drinking, very few people knew what it looked like behind closed doors. My wife did. She had a problem with it. We almost got divorced over it. She had a right to have a problem with it. But most of the people around me would say nothing. Like, even if they knew, there were people that knew that I drank a lot, right? But again, I showed up. I did the things. Why were they going to say anything to me, right? I had coworkers. Once upon a time, I had a CDL as a sign guy, operated a crane. There's another really great example. Like, did you want this crane operator driving a 20-ton truck? By the way, I did the math. I was okay on the road. But at the end of the day, do you really want a guy that's slightly hungover driving a 20-ton truck around and operating a crane? Like, the answer now, me in hindsight, is no. I don't want that. But my coworkers, we would have to travel all over the state. When we stayed in a hotel room, I would just get drunk. And I usually get more intoxicated than I would at home because I didn't have the kids to take care of. I didn't have homework. I didn't have to take care of my wife, or not that I took care of her, but spend time with, right? I could just get drunk. We'd finish eating. I would get drunk. My coworkers would just be like, what the hell? Like, how do you, or why do you drink that much? And then they would not say anything because the next morning I get up and we got to work. So it's no big deal, right? Again, the rug is not out of place. Here's the problem though. Like, yeah, I went to work every day, carried out my duties safely, thank God. But we're like one bad decision away from consequences in our life, whether that's a DUI, divorce, loss of children, loss of a job. You know, like, think of your own situation, apply this whole thing to it, and think about what the consequences look like in your life, and truly think about the fact that I was a high functioning alcoholic until I wasn't. You can go ask the majority of people that have a drinking problem, and they were high functioning alcoholics at one point too, until they weren't. Because alcohol, is by its very nature, demands that we consume more of it. Like, that is the relationship we have with alcohol. You know, you may never get to the point where you are drinking way more than you should, but I am willing to bet dollars to donuts, if you sat down, you do a timeline of your life and your alcohol consumption, unless you quit, made a smart move somewhere along the way, it's still increased. I think that's just the way that it works. And I just mentioned how I made a good choice and quit. And I want to make it clear that I am not calling for prohibition. Okay. I don't want everybody to think I'm some like prude teetotaler, right? Like, I don't drink. Anybody that's seen the show knows that. If you don't know that, hey, I'm a sobriety coach. So no, I don't drink alcohol. Okay. Pretty stickler about my habits, my addictions, right? But I don't expect everyone to quit, right? Like, if you want to drink, that's your deal. If you've got a drinking problem and you want to like perpetuate that kind of trauma, truthfully trauma to the people around you, then that's also your deal, right? I mean, it's kind of messed up, a little selfish because there are other people involved in your life, but at the end of the day, that's your choice as well, you know? But here's the thing. What I am calling for is that we hold ourselves accountable, hold ourselves to a higher standard, and the people around us to a higher standard than we are currently. Because when we do throw the term high functioning alcoholic around, it is permissive, whether we like it or not. If you don't believe me, then maybe go talk to your high functioning alcoholic friend. I know that you have one. Like, everybody has one. And ask them what the use of that word means to them and what it does for them, what it allows them to do. And really just kind of think, like, if we're just one moment of poor judgment away from serious consequences from our drinking. How do you know that you're not going to be the one that's at the end of that arm's length decision, right? Like, you don't. That's the truth. So there's my take. I would love to hear from any of you what experiences you might have with other people's drinking around you, any sort of consequences that you dealt with because of it along the way. And most importantly, like, did you speak up? Did you do anything about it? I mean, I can say that I've had many people in my life throughout the years that I wish got sober sooner. Some of them are dead because of it. Like, that's the truth. You know, I have friends that died young because of drinking. I'm 36, you know, I lost some as early as like my 20s, our 20s, you know, people I went to high school with from drinking, you know. But I never said anything to most of those people. And furthermore, to make it worse, there's a guy that I was a really good friend with. I don't get to speak to him that often anymore because he has allowed addiction to rule his life. But he had a drinking problem from the time that we were like 19, like truly, it ruled his life. And the most I ever said was like, you should quit drinking. And then when he said he was having troubles, I was like, well, just do it. You know, now look where I'm at. And I've had this experience. Like, if there's one person that I really would like to apologize to for treating someone that had an issue that way, it's that guy for sure. You know, that being said, when I say, you know, do we hold people accountable? I'm not saying we burn these people at the stake for their behavior at all. I just think that these are conversations that we need to start having with people, and it could start with you. You know, like, realistically, you could save somebody's life by simply having a potentially difficult conversation with somebody along the way. You know, like, hey, I'm kind of concerned about your drinking, you know, and approach it in like, you don't confront them. You know, like, don't corner the coworker that smells like alcohol every day, and give them a stern talking to, because I promise you that will never work. You know, just express some concern, man. Have some empathy. Kind of try to get an understanding of where they're coming from, what their experience is like, because when people are drinking, generally they're hurting in some way. Like, I'm not, hey, I know maybe what you're thinking is like, I'm making excuses for the people that are the best at making excuses. And I say that as somebody that used to have a drinking problem. Like, if you want to find the best excuse for stuff, go find somebody that has a drinking problem, because they'll be able to come up with one for you. I promise, you know. But deep down, like, underneath all the excuses, they're having issues dealing with stress, anxiety, socializing. They're experiencing depression. The worst part is that those things all compound each other. That's why it becomes progressive. Like, if I drink because I have a bad day, eventually I look for a reason for every day to be a bad day. That's the thing. That's the thing that happens. It's documented. You could go ask any of the people that have a drinking problem in your life. I promise you that that's happened to them, right? It gets worse. And as you start having more bad days, you start having more excuses to drink. And then those, like, your drinking causes you to have more bad days, right? It just gets worse. So that being said, like, have just a real human conversation with them. Be empathetic. Like, why are they behaving the way that they are? You know, I can say I haven't yet, and hopefully never do, met somebody who is just like causing wanton destruction in their drinking. Like, that's why they're doing it. They're drinking to hurt people. That's not ever been my experience with anybody I've ever met or anybody that I've ever worked with. Do we hurt people in our use? Yeah. Like, yeah. And it doesn't matter what addiction. It doesn't have to be a substance. It doesn't have to be alcohol, like I'm talking. It can be any sort of behavior, any sort of experience, events, people, or other substances, right? And as we chase those things, we lose sight of our ability, or we lose sight and our ability to consider the people around us. And that's the truth. That's scientifically documented. And again, I don't want anybody out there who's watching this that does have some sort of drinking problem. I don't want you to ever take my words and twist them and use them permissively. I'm not giving you permission to continue having your issue. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm calling out for other people to have a conversation with you about the issue. Because the thing is when you're deep in it, you've lost that neuroplasticity. Like you've lost connections through synaptic pruning. You have lost connections in your mind that allow you to have empathy, that allow you to make conscious choices on some level. Like a lot of it is the fact that like you're not considering that you're in a relationship with alcohol and your wife and your kids and your boss and your coworkers and everybody else. You don't think about that. We think about our relationship with the alcohol, right? Again, this applies to anything. It can be social media use. It can be food. It can be gambling. It can be any other substance. You know, I've heard that you can be addicted to sex, right? Like the Tiger Woods thing, I would assume most of the people that are listening right now are familiar with those whole debacles that have existed throughout history. But like, we can find ourselves addicted to anything, which is why I do not tend to favor that it's like this disease type thing. It's just a really bad habit, right? Because if it doesn't have to be a substance that is addictive, that we find ourselves ingrained in the behavior or experience or event or person, then maybe there's more to it, right? That was standing, right? I think we should have a conversation with people. And that's my take on high functioning alcoholics. Love it or hate it. That's the hill I'm willing to die on. I don't think there is such a thing. I think that there are people that have a drinking problem that we keep making excuses for. And I think that the longer we make excuses for these people, the more generations of high functioning alcoholics will exist and be born and perpetuated. So I think about it like this. There have been humans walking this earth for like 300,000 years. Don't at me about religion and stuff, okay? Coming from a historical perspective, evolutionary perspective here, okay? 300,000 years humans have walked the earth. That's about 25 years, if you think about it on average, for a generation. Real quick math on that. You've got 20 times 20 goes into 300,000, about 12,500 times 12,000, something like that. 12,500 times, I think, maybe. Or just 12,000. I guess it'd be like 12,000. So there's been 12,000 generations of human beings that came before us. And I don't really want to let them down by perpetuating a plague on our species. Like, I don't think that's why they like fought through life and, you know, all had kids to get us to where we are today. So there's my takes, everybody. I would earnestly solicit some commentary from all y'all, and some questions that you might have, any sort of sobriety related questions. I'd love to field some of those. It's one of my favorite things to do throughout the week. And otherwise, I want to do my best to keep the conversation going until Ryan does show up, whenever that might be. It's weird being on the Dillon and the Doc podcast just as Dillon, because he and I bounce each other like thoughts off each other to kind of keep the show going. And now I have to figure out how to talk to y'all extemporaneously. For those of you that don't know that, that means like an impromptu speech right now, where I just have to figure it out. Okay, well, what am I going to do for the next 30 minutes? And without you asking some questions, it might be a little difficult. Maybe it won't. So what I guess I'll do is I will take you through some things that I would suggest if you are concerned about getting sober. I'm doing good. Thanks, Barb. I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. I want to talk about socializing when we get sober, and what's maybe some strategies, because that's something I see that come up a lot with people that, you know, are interested in doing one-on-one coaching or group mentorship with me. It's like, what does life look like once I've gotten sober? how do I socialize with people when I've only socialized with people with a drink in my hand? Because I mean, I was there. That was honestly, that was one of my concerns. Like, I'm going to lose friends over the deal. I can't go to bars. I can't be around alcohol. Like, I had all these, many of them were myths that I've dispelled through my experience, but like these commonly held beliefs of what getting sober looked like. And in my head, getting sober looked boring. Like, just full transparency. In a way, I stayed drunk longer. Well, I mean, I stayed drunk way longer than I should have, but part of the reason was I was afraid that I'd be bored if I got sober, which is weird. If you think about it, think about how long you've been around and the time you spent not drinking. Like, I had a hell of a lot of fun when I was a kid before I was ever drinking, doing drugs, or anything like that. So that should go right out the window. You know, like if the reason that you want to continue to drink, the reason you won't get sober is because you're concerned about socializing, you think that it'll be boring, you're wrong. And you already have evidence in your own life that life isn't boring just because you don't drink, right? Because you've already done that. Then, you know, we have the concern that like you can't be around alcohol, and that's just not true. I've been sober for years at this point, like not a decade, not 2 decades, not 3 decades. It's got 3.5-ish years at this point. At the end of July, my wife and I went on a date. I went and bought her drinks at the bar, brought them to her all night, never touched it. They just gave it to her. Everything was okay. You know, like it wasn't what I thought it was going to be like. Full disclosure, that was the first time I ever bought alcohol from like a bar at that point. You know, my wife had drank in front of me. I bought package for my wife. My dad at one point visited me here in Dallas and asked me if I was comfortable going and buying him a 6-pack of beer. I've been sober for like a year at that point. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, no. So like, if you're concerned that you can't be around alcohol, that's why you don't want to get sober, because you can't go to, I don't know, Christmas parties or other company events or weddings, or I don't know, here in America, it might be a freaking, honestly, a baby shower. You might be drinking at a baby shower. If you're concerned about all those things, put that away. Like, you're future tripping about events that you don't even know what they look like. And I am not the only person on earth that's gotten sober and been to events where people drink and stayed sober. Like, that's it. So like, let's talk some strategies, like in the beginning, because you might need them. Like, you might need them. So in the beginning, things that you could be doing is phone a friend. Like, seriously, like, you're at let's go to that actual baby shower, right? It's for your brother or sister or someone like you pretty much have to go, right? You're socially obligated, as they say, to show up to this event. And there's free booze, you know, just a cooler full of Bud Light or whatever the hell's there, right? And you have access to it. There might be people there that don't want you to drink it, but most of the time, hey, we just spent the last half hour talking about how people don't call us on our BS, right? You could probably go grab a beer. And even if it did upset some people, they're probably not going to call you out about it at a baby shower, because nobody's there for you when you're drinking. They're there for the baby shower, right? So you phone a friend. Like, if you're feeling weak, phone a friend. Phone someone else that's sober and talk with them about what you're going through. Be curious about the experience, by the way. Don't judge yourself. Like, that's the worst approach you could take. If you have something, a behavior in your life, like a drinking problem, the longer that you fight it, the more that you resist it, the longer it persists. Like, think about if you have somebody that comes up to you and is trying to have a conversation with you and you ignore them, like, just ignore them. Like, it's rude. Okay. I'll full disclosure, that's rude. But if you did that, they're going to go away at some point. Like, they're going, or maybe they won't go away, but they're going to stop talking to you. Like, they're not going to continue to waste their breath trying to have a conversation with somebody that's not responding. In a way, we need to like think about our addictions in that same fashion. Like, maybe they're just asking about the weather, whoever the stranger is, or they want to talk about the ball game short, like briefly talk about some ball game or something. And if you just did that, then they do go. They just go away. They leave, right? Our addiction is the same way. Be curious. Like, why do I feel like I need to drink at this event? Like, why do I feel like if I don't drink at this baby shower that I'm the weird one? Like, why is it like that? Is it a social thing? Like, because everyone else is, you have to do that? Do people expect you to be the drunken idiot? Like, are you just playing someone else's part? Are you playing a part in someone else's life? I guess is the real question at that point. Like, are you living purposefully? You know, and these are all questions you should be asking yourself whenever we're experiencing a craving, whether we're at a social event or otherwise. Like, you just be sitting in your living room. You need to ask yourself, like, do I just want to drink because it's easy? Do I just want to drink because it's what I always do? Like, what is it? And be playful with it. Don't come from a place of judgment, because when you're coming from a place of judgment, you're picking a fight with your addiction. And then that little devil on the shoulder wants to have a conversation with you 10 miles long, longer than you want to. And that's when we fail. Like, we can't continue to like hold the strength to hold this conversation. And then we give up, we give in, and we drink. Okay. So there you go. If you're experiencing any of that while you're at a social event that you feel like you have to be at while people are drinking, have a conversation with somebody that can understand what it's like. The other thing is, have a backup plan. Like, for real, you're allowed to say no and I'm leaving whenever you want to, whenever you want to, wherever you want to. They call it an Irish goodbye from where I'm from. Like, you just disappear. You're allowed to do that. Generally, it's nice to say goodbye. Like, hey, I'm leaving. And most people, if they truly have your best interest in mind, they're going to be cool with you leaving. Like, I'm telling you, like, your family members at that baby shower that know that you have a drinking problem. If you're like, hey, I'm feeling weak today, I got to go, and I don't want to drink, I'm afraid that I'm going to drink if I stick around, they'll be cool with you leaving. I promise you. Like, I promise you. If they're not cool with you leaving, then don't socially obligate yourself to that crowd ever again, because they don't have your best interest at heart. But I can say I've never really like interacted with anybody that's had that issue. Thank God for that, for everybody in the relationships that I've dealt with along the way. Other thing is like, socially obligate yourself to behaving. So, I don't know, find the aunt that, like, I don't know, maybe it's an uncle, but find the relative that always drinks a lot. Like, I had a relative that we would drink together at events, like together, right? Get super drunk together. Find that person and offer to be their DD, right? Like, that's something that you could be doing. Oh, look at this guy. Hey, I got this guy. Sorry to quit mid-sentence, but I see this guy, Dr. Ryan, popping up in the green room. And he's we're doing it from a car today. Hey, you can pop in. You should be able to add yourself at this point. I added you.
Oh, thanks for adding me, man.
You're welcome. Hey,
what's going on?
Dude, we were just talking about surviving. It wasn't the topic. You missed the whole high functioning alcoholism part, but we were talking about surviving social situations in sobriety. Yeah, because it's like it's a hot button issue when we're trying to get sober. So I figured we'd cover that. Nice to see you, man.
I like it. Nice to see you too, man.
Yeah. Who are you?
This is a long day. I'm Dr. Ryan. I am traveling across the state right now. I'm a campaign manager for a U.S. Senate candidate, but my normal job is a relationship coach. I'm an expert in relationship development and interpersonal communication. I'm here to help you do all things relationship related.
Yeah, man. We're glad you're here, because I was like, you know, this is really hard to do all by myself.
It is.
You know, I mean, it would be, like I said, I was like, it's extemporaneous for me right now. I get a message from you like a couple hours ago, like, hey, I think I'll be there at about the 30-minute mark. So I'm like, oh, okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, man, it's hard not having that feedback, that back and forth with someone else, just especially when you're used to it, and that's what the whole show's built around.
Yeah, like, there's no conversation going on right now. I'm talking to people that I don't know. Hey, we just broke down the fourth wall here.
We did. But also in social situations, it's similar if you're new to them.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like you're talking just to an abyss because nobody understands, nobody can relate.
Totally.
And a lot of times relationships get that way. It feels like you're talking into an abyss because you're talking the wrong way.
Hey, is that's right. You're the relationship guy. I'm the sober guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense. Yeah, I want to pop this up real quick, Ryan, because we got I don't know if you can see because you're on your phone, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what your
Maybe I can turn this
dashboard looks
down.
like. Oh, hey,
Oh, hey.
now you're more full. But we had this. I wanted to pick it up. Tim says I find it hard to be around people who I usually associate with drinks if I'm trying to stay sober. Even if I'm willing to be DD, being around those people makes me want to drink more. And I want to take this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that all comes back to the people, places, and things type concept, right? We find ourselves addicted to behaviors, events, experiences, people, and substances. And those can all be in conjunction. That's the fun part about all that, right? So if every time you hang out with Bob, you drink, then all the neural networks that you've got in your mind, as soon as you think about Bob, because all of that fires at the same time, it's like boom, explode, because that's how you're efficient. So you think about Bob and you think about drinking and you think about that one time you did that one thing with Bob and yada, 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 all these things to give you context for how to behave in a situation. That's why you go through all that stuff at the same time so that you're like prepared, right? So if you've already associated drinking with those people, you're going to always associate drinking with those people until you start building new neural networks around those people, like spending time with them sober. So it's not easy. It's not always fun. In fact, sometimes it's the complete opposite of both of those things. But if you don't take the time to cultivate those experiences with those people, you're going to spend the rest of your life only having those associations in those relationships with drinking, which means you spend your whole life not hanging out with Bob anymore, which I think sucks. I didn't want that in my life. So I've had to do some hard work. And the other thing too is like, think about at first, maybe avoid the situations that make you soft, like the people that you have relapsed with, because now you've also associated a relapse with that guy too. It's not just drinking, right? So do that. But that's kind of where you're at with that. I wanted to take that and didn't want Tim to think that he was speaking into an abyss, because that's just not fair.
Yeah, and you've also, here's the thing. You cannot change other people, and you can't expect other people to change just because you have changed, which means you have to have the new experiences with that person, knowing that they may drink. Here's the thing. They don't have the problem.
Right.
And even if you think they have a problem, that is none of your business.
Totally.
What is your business is your own sobriety, your place in that situation. So what I'm saying is you need to create new experiences with that person and focus on the experience, not on the behavior.
Yeah, and the past.
And the
past behaviors and the past experiences, right?
Yeah. You have to, like, I don't know, if you've never gone bowling with him, go bowling with him.
Totally.
If you've never gone and done putt-putt, go and do putt-putt. If you've never played poker, have a poker night.
Dude, that sounds like fun. Putt-putt?
Yeah. If you've never, I don't know, make a new gym buddy out of it.
Dude, yeah.
Like,
there you go. Tim, you're welcome, guy. For real. Thanks for tuning into the show. I love that. I love that. I mean, I guess because you talk about it in the context of relationships you have in the past, like go make new memories to like, get over a past relationship. Yeah. And we, on the show, the concept of alcohol being a relationship is very heavy in here. I talked a lot about that before you popped on because that's the biggest problem in my mind about being a high functioning alcoholic. That's why I was bummed you weren't here, because like I didn't have the yin to the yang the whole time. But it's like we're in a relationship with alcohol, and we drag everyone else into that relationship too. It's not just us. So in a way, when you break up with alcohol, it's time to start building new relationships and new experiences with the people that you have in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude. So what's going on in your world?
Man, we just got to Lander. We were in Jackson all night and all morning. Had a really good turnout at our very first town hall meeting.
Nice, man.
That was good. It's politics, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's boring to a lot of people.
You didn't
But
go to Jackson for a wedding, right?
no, I didn't go to Jackson for a wedding.
It's a Johnny Cash callback for those of you that didn't know.
Oh, I had
I'm a
no
nerd
idea.
like that. Yeah. He's got a song called I'm Going to Jackson. So it's about a marriage and stuff. But yeah. Anyways, guys, my horrible joke landed just as well as it should have, I guess, right on its face. But so what do you got? What are you bringing to the table today? I mean, you got anything? We missed out on the insight. We might have to do a high functioning alcoholic segment like a year from now when everybody's forgotten what I talked about, so we can get your insight on it. There'll be no second takes, but
Yeah, there's just, I don't know. I've been so in politics right now that I haven't been the relationship side.
yeah, no. Now
I
here's your
like
15
that.
minutes.
I like the experience thing. Like, you need to create new experiences, and what I'll add to that, just like I tell all of my clients, you can't change other people.
Yeah.
You shouldn't try to change other people. That is none of your business whatsoever.
Totally.
What is your business is what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And you need to fix that.
Yeah.
The other bit of advice is it's easier to understand other people than it is to try to make other people understand you.
Would agree. It's also not their business what we're talking about.
No. Like, you can't expect them. Here's the thing. You can't expect them to understand what you're going through.
Right.
In retrospect, or on the flip side of that, it is your responsibility in your sobriety, in your relationship, to try to understand where they're coming from in your situation. Understand they're feeling just as weird as you are. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But you would never know that because you're not trying to figure out what's going on their side, asking questions, understanding what's going on, how they're feeling, any of that stuff. Like, you have to open that conversation up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to keep asking yourself questions, living in a what if world, and you're going to stay in the same exact place, feeling awkward in these situations, and you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow. You're not giving them an opportunity to grow. You're not giving them an opportunity to actually be a significant part of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's like how, I mean, whether we like it or not, no man is an island kind of concept. Like iron sharpens iron. Most of our growth that we will experience through life is relational at some level.
Yeah.
Like even in the creation of knowledge, like in academia, you need people for that to be done. Like you cannot in a vacuum create knowledge because you need people to be observing. You need people to bounce things off of, right? It's the same way in your life with your experiences. Like if you're not taking the time to communicate and to learn about these people, then you're not relating. And if you're not relating, you don't have the relationship to grow from, right?
Yeah. It's so important, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're trying to get sober, to stop and think about the other people. Give them a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, they've given you a chance at some point.
Yeah.
It's your time to reciprocate that same amount of respect to them.
Totally. Yeah. But I mean, our brain is hardwired. Like our dopaminergic system is hardwired around relationships, which gives you, I don't know, a pretty good insight into what we were designed to do as a species. Like if the primary motivating chemical works the best around relationships, then maybe we should be focusing more on our relationships, right?
Yeah.
Tuning into them, caring about them.
You should.
Yeah. We're not meant to be solo species. It's just not it. Not it at all. So I told them earlier, I haven't told you yet. I'm going to tell you right now. I was behind on the podcast. We're almost caught up. And I decided this week to take on one less coaching client onto my plate so that I can focus more on this because I do love this so much.
Right.
I don't want to like allow it to fall behind, even though nobody probably cares except for me. But I do care so dearly about it. Like, hey, I want to do that. I want to make it cooler.
Wow. That's
so
awesome, man. Thanks.
You're welcome, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. And I was razzing you, you know, when you were off air. I was like, it's like he picked someone else above me. You know, how dare him? But no, I'm stoked. I mean, I'm glad you made it at least. You know, in the end. I was worried. I was like, you know, I wasn't totally watching the clock, but I wasn't not watching the clock. I'm like,
dude, I was not watching the clock, but I was watching the clock.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean, you were coming from Du Bois to Lander.
Yeah, so it's Jackson to Lander. I was in Du Bois when I talked to you.
But you were going through, and like for those of you that are not familiar with the geography of the state of Wyoming, if you want to know where you can get cell service, it's mostly just in towns.
Yeah,
like that's kind of it. So it's like as soon as you were like, yeah, I'm on the road, because I think when I used to have to travel all through Wyoming for work, my podcasts were downloaded to my phone the night before because I knew better than to hope that I was going to have good enough cell reception to be able to get it. So there was no way you were going to be pulling over on the side of the road as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I pulled over when I was talking to you, and it was right on the outskirt of Du Bois.
Yeah.
And that's when it cut out. And then I was like, fuck it, I'll send him a message. And then I hit the road. It was gone until I got to Lander. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, also, guys, I don't think it's safe to be going live on Facebook driving down the interstate or highway, I guess, rather highway. Either way, you shouldn't drive in live, period.
Not going to do it, man.
Give it a shot. Come on. So are you going to be back? You'll be back to town this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be back. We have 2 town halls tomorrow, one at 10 in the morning and one at 6 at night.
Cool.
Then we leave Riverton at 7, 8, 9. So we'll be back about 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
Cool. So you're good for next week? Do you know?
Yeah.
I figure we could get that administrative detail for our.
Yeah. So next weekend I'll actually be in Casper and Douglas. So.
Oh yeah, it's close. So
yeah, we have town halls there and meet.
Again, for those of you that don't know the geography of Wyoming, that's like a 30-45 minute drive. So he's good no matter what.
Yeah.
So dear listener, Ryan will be here. The doc will be on the show next week.
I will be there.
Which is important because he's supposed to be talking about identifying and overcoming obstacles in goal setting. Isn't that? Yeah. Is that the goal attainment? Maybe. Sorry.
Goal attainment, yeah.
And goal attainment.
Goals. Like finding it, figuring out what the obstacles are, preemptively hitting them so that you have a plan to get over that hump when it does arrive when you're trying to reach your goals.
Yeah, and I mean, I could give a segment on that, but it wouldn't be his. So I'm not going to do that. Not doing that. If Ryan doesn't show up for one of his segments, I'm not giving it. Okay? It's his program, the way that he teaches those things. And we just bounce ideas back and forth off each other. Not running that show. But yeah, so all that being said, I just really do want to thank everybody for being here. You know, continue to show up like Barb. I really appreciate you. You've been here, I don't know, a couple weeks in a row at least at this point, vocal enough, you know, the last couple weeks. And thank you, Tim and Marianne, for showing up on the show today. There is no night show this week.
Nope, that's next week.
Yeah, no double feature. We have a double feature next week. Which as it stands, unless, I don't know, it's your week every week to be a double header. You know, at least the second, our Friday night fireside chat is kind of off the cuff. Nobody has to prepare homework. You know, like the high functioning alcoholic segment, we prepare that our segment each week. So there was research that went into it, homework and that kind of stuff. We don't have to do that for the Friday night. Friday night is all about you guys and you popping in. Boom. Hey.
Functioning alcoholic, I think too many people think that it's okay.
Thanks, Barb. Me too. I approve. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, I mean that was the gist of the segment that you missed. It was just like, hey, it's permissive. Don't do that. Uh, yeah, man. So let's see. We've got your segment next week.
Yep.
We do have a live show on Tuesday. If you have not already, hop on over to www.facebook.com/Dillon in the Dock. Follow that page. That page has the show schedule on it so that you know what nights we go live and what afternoon. We go live every Friday afternoon, and our Fridays alternate, and then Tuesday nights. Which is like a mouthful to do all of that for you. And if you did not know already, that this is currently the plug at the end of the show, so it's shameless plugs. Send us an email. We read them all. We respond to them all. Really do value our guests and listeners and having an opportunity to communicate with y'all. So shoot us an email and we'll respond like as us.
Yes.
You can even, if you wanted to talk to Ryan, you don't want to talk to me, then say it's for Ryan. But don't open unless you're Ryan in the subject line, and I'll honor that. You know, I might ask him about it later. He probably won't tell me though.
Nope.
But yeah, just we got a thing. I'm trying to. That's why I'm taking on one less client. I now have also another website to build for the show. So I a glutton for punishment, I guess. It's just the way it goes. Well, it's our show. We can cut out a few minutes early. I think, you're just hanging out in a car in a parking lot in the middle of Wyoming, wait to get to the next spot. I got to know. I guess, man, this is a bit I'm just going to wear out today. For those of you that don't know the geography of Wyoming, Thermopolis is surrounded by hot springs. Are you at least going to go to Star Plunge while you're there?
That's where we're staying tonight. Not the Star Plunge. We're going to, what is it called? The Fountain of Youth.
Gotcha.
So we're going out there to that campground. It's less crowded.
Yeah.
Go chill there until 9:30 tonight, and then
you better go to Star Plunge before you leave. That's all I gotta say. Better hit that water slide, dude.
We're not hitting Star Plunge. He won't go there. He just wants to chill. Star Plunge is a chill place.
You go, he'll survive, dude. Are you security too?
We'll go to Fountain of Youth.
Fine, dude. Just saying water slides, okay? Like, I have to sell you on this. You should be pre-sold, dude.
I should be. I was there in February, so I got my yearly fill of the Star Plunge.
Sulfur water.
Love it.
Sulfur water.
I love it.
Cool. Well, guys, we will catch you on Tuesday. Again, thank you all for coming out to the show. Really appreciate your support. It's made possible by viewers like you.
Yes.
So we'll see you guys later.